this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the Corsair HS65 Surround. This is a premium 7.1 surround sound gaming headset from Corsair that's yet affordable and interesting, and it works with a number of different devices including PC, Mac, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, with Tempest 3D audio support if you're interested in that, Nintendo Switch and mobile. Now it works with a 3.5mm connection connected directly to the headset, but it also has an included USB dongle to give you superior sound with 7.1 and Dolby audio on PC, but it also, more importantly, has Sonarworks SoundID technology, which you can use within Corsair's IQ software to personalise the sound that you hear from the headphones, which makes it very interesting, and I'll show more about that later on and what it does and what it means. But in this video I'm going to be unboxing and showing off the headset and talking about its various features, including what it's like to wear, the comfort, the overall look and feel, the microphone, which I'm using now, by the way, for the voiceover for this video, so the entirety of the video will be using the mic from the headset, and there are some complaints I have about the microphone, and I'll talk about those as well. And this is obviously the white headset. There is a black variant as well, but I think the white one looks particularly nice. Some of the things that you will have noticed already is it has quite an interesting mesh grille on the outer side. It also has some really plush memory foam faux leather ear cups with a soft fabric, and more on that as well, but basically it's designed to be comfortable all day long. Now it's also lightweight at 282 grams, and yet constructed from solid sort of aluminium parts to make it both adjustable and durable and to fit and be comfortable for the majority of the day. And I'll talk a bit more about comfort as we go through as well, because that's an important part of any headset. Now the HS65 is part of the lineup from Corsair. Obviously I've done a video previously on the HS80, which I thought very highly of. That was a very comfortable headset, and I'll even compare the two in a minute side by side so you can see what they look like, because there's an interesting comparison in terms of the ear cup design. But this is a step down from that. It's not as premium. It is obviously a wired headset, and it has, as I said, a 3.5mm connection, which isn't terribly long, but is obviously designed to work with multiple different devices. I'll leave all the specs in the description so you can find out the sizes and things like that. But you can see bundled up with it is this USB dongle, which is reminiscent of the Logitech G Pro X wired headset that I tested out a while ago, so I'll probably do a versus to compare those two. But essentially the 3.5mm plugs into that USB, and then when you plug that in on PC you can use that Sonarworks SoundID tech, as I said, but also Dolby virtual surround sound. So as standard out of the box with a 3.5mm, this is a stereo headset that obviously works on console and other devices, and it has a single plug, so it's a single 3.5mm cable, and gives you stereo sound, which reasonably loud, pretty loud headset, and a nice bit of sound out of the stereo, I'll be honest. It is also an interesting look and feel to it. I felt like when I was stretching it out here, the headband looks a bit unusually shaped. But as you'll see, it extends out quite nicely, and there's some good metal parts in there, and it seems like it's pretty durable and strong. You're not going to be able to snap it very easily. There's also some nice plush padding on the top of the headband, and those ear cups are also quite large and plush as well. Close-up shots of those in a minute, but one of the things I noted almost immediately is just the weight of it. So it's very lightweight at 282 grams or thereabouts, and that is remarkably light for a headset, which means that as well as having soft cushioning, it sits nicely on the head and doesn't weigh you down terribly. A close-up look at the design, you'll see there's no RGB lighting here. However, you do have this sort of outer mesh finish on it, and then these easy swivel ear cups. So it clamps to the head fairly nicely and fairly tightly, as you'd imagine from the sort of narrow looking headband at the top. But you can tilt and twist those ear cups into a nice and comfortable position. They use memory foam cushioning, and you can see some of that. And as I said, it has this sort of soft material and a faux leather, so it blocks out some external noise. It's worth noting that there is side tone on the microphone, but only when you're running it through Corsair's IQ software using the USB adapter. So bear that in mind, and I'll talk a bit more about the mic later on. But the adapter itself is very straightforward because it's plugged in, it's automatically recognised by IQ, and then you can switch to Dolby surround sound if you want to, and also obviously customise the audio with that Sonarworks SoundID stuff. It basically allows you to tweak the levels, and it's quite an interesting design because it basically goes through various different soundscapes and has you select your favourite one, kind of in the way you would lenses if you're getting tested by the optician and working out which one you prefer from them. It's kind of quirky and unusual, but it actually delivers an interesting sound. Now, ear cups are twist to remove, kind of like the HS80, so you can see that you can take those off with relative ease. Now, one of the things I noted is they do seem larger than previous headsets, and they're certainly not round like the Corsair Virtuoso, so in theory more comfortable because they're more ear shaped. They also have a relatively good depth to them and overall size. But one thing that I did note is I have found that there is still a bit of pressure on the top and bottom of my ears, but only if I don't adjust the headband properly. So I did find I have to make sure the headband's extended long enough so that it's not sort of pulling my ears about. But you can see a difference when you compare them with the HS80, which obviously has been used a bit. Ignore the stickers on there, that's my daughter put those on. And my wife has been using these and she's obviously a bit messy. But you can see the difference in the shape and size of them. So the HS80 has like these D-shaped ear cups, whereas the HS65 has longer ones with perhaps a less natural ear shape, but they still remain comfortable. Now I do prefer the soft plush cushioning and material on the HS80. I think that's a nicer headset, but the ear cups on the HS65 are certainly very nice as well. And if you get them both off and just compare them side by side, you'll see more of the sort of size and shape difference. The bonus of the HS65 ear cups is because of that leatherette memory foam setup basically blocks out a bit more external noise, which means when side tone's off, you don't have to worry too much about the external noise around you. You can just focus on the game or the music or whatever you're doing and just enjoy the sound there. The memory foam cushioning is also very comfortable, although naturally with a setup like this you find your ears get a little bit warmer, and I mean that might be problematic in the summer, but the setup is fairly straightforward, and obviously it's nice to be able to have the ear cups removable. You'll see there's a volume wheel on the left, and also you have this axis for where the headband twists and how that works, and the flip to mute mic. One of the problems I do know is that if you flip that microphone to mute it, then try and twist the ear cups, it becomes a problem because it hits the top of the headband, but that's not really an issue when you're wearing it. And as you'll see, the microphone is also quite bendable, so you can bend it round to fit towards your mouth. Now, when you've got it plugged in, you can also get audible cues from PC. And I will say, while I'm using this, that I have used it in both 3.5mm and the USB modes, and I found that you do get the best experience with the USB connection because you have those extra sound options, but also for simple things like you have an audible cue to let you know when the mic's muted when you flip it up, but you don't get that if you don't have a USB connection. If you're only using the 3.5mm, the headset sort of becomes dumb in that it doesn't have as many options or as much intelligence as it would do if you're using the USB connection, so it's a lot nicer. And that isn't a surprise because Corsair seems to have their headset mainly focused at PC, but then other things are an extra thought. That's not to say it doesn't sound good with a 3.5mm. It's far from the best headset I've tried, but at this price point it actually delivers a pretty good sound. The bass is a bit lacking. I feel like it could do with a bit more bass. It can feel a little bit hollow in terms of the overall sound, but it does deliver a good soundscape, and it is rich enough for music and movies and for gaming. I've enjoyed using it for gaming for sure, and obviously the advantage of blocking out some of that external noise and letting you just focus on the game is very welcome. I also like the finish on it. It is a nice fit on the head and it is easy to wear as long as you make sure you adjust the headband into a big enough size for your head. You'll find that it sits nicely, it holds nicely onto the head. The clamping force isn't so strong that it puts pressure on the head unnecessarily, and the ear cushions are comfortable enough that I don't feel my ears are touching the drivers, for example, and they're not being squashed horribly like they were with the Virtuoso. And you can see just how squashy they are when put on the Pac-Man head as an example. So a very nice setup for the most part. Now I'm going to dive into the IQ software and show you the tweaks that you can do in there. Here we are in Windows 11 in IQ software. Now before I get into that, I want to note the sound settings. If you go into the sound settings, you'll see it's plugged in with a USB adapter. If you right click on it and go into here, you can find under advanced that it's actually set to 24-bit 96 kHz studio quality, which is interesting because the headset itself has a 20,000 Hz frequency response but a 40,000 Hz frequency range according to the documentation. I don't believe this is a high-res headset in the same way as the Virtuoso, but it does still give an interesting sound. Obviously also I've already said that you have the option of Dolby surround sound, as I'll show you, but when you go into Windows you also have the spatial surround sound option, so you can see Windows Sonic for headphones, DTS Headphone X and DTS X Ultra as well. Those are separate options. Dolby Atmos, for example, is a paid for service, but it shows you that you do have the option of other things. Now if we go into IQ, you'll notice at the bottom that we have an option here to change between stereo and Dolby Audio surround modes, and you can click into those as well as an auto audio repositioning button. And then we have some mic dials, more on the mic in a minute because I want to talk about that specifically. But you can also go into the SoundID personalization. Now this is the Sonarworks SoundID. So what you can do is you can set up a test which basically allows you to personalize your sound exactly according to your personal preferences and taste. So it basically adjusts the audio. So the test basically takes you through and lets you select a soundscape or a different track. So we could just, you can basically pick a sound that you like the sound of, and then you can click next on there. And then what that does is you can basically then decide which one you like. So you have to go A or B. So you can see like B is bassier, but this is obviously going to vary depending on your ears and what it's like. And then you basically go through and choose these separately and pick whichever one sounds best to you, and it adjusts the audio accordingly. Some of those sounds are quite significantly different in the way they work and the influence that it has when you're selecting which one you prefer. Obviously this is also a personal preference in how you set it up, but it's worth bearing in mind that if the sound's off, it might be part of that, and you can then tweak that as necessary. So you can do that anytime. You can also turn it off entirely if you don't want to use it, and then you have the option for the various different soundscapes. So you can see there are various EQ presets for competition, FPS, bass boost, pure direct movie theatre, and more in here that you can also use if you prefer. There's also a voice mod option if you want to unlock that, which is paid for thing. So this is obviously one of the selling points of the headset, but one that you can only do with IQ, and I believe at the moment you can only do it on PC as well, not on Mac. Now I want to talk to you about the microphone, because one of the things I've noticed while doing this voiceover and in general is that the microphone seems to pick up some background noise, but actually more of a electromagnetic hum when you use with the USB connection. So you can't necessarily hear it through the side tone, but I definitely have noticed it when doing the voiceover for this and had to counter it a little bit. Now some of this has required some tweaking to the sound settings. So you'll notice if you click on device settings, you can adjust the microphone boost. I found as standard it's actually very quiet. Out of the box it was set to about 70% mic volume. And I played around with the various settings, including the turning the mic boost up. I also went into Windows sound settings and changed things in there. So I ended up going into the recordings tab and finding the microphone and right clicking on that and then adjusting the levels in here and trying to tweak things around in there as well. And I found that basically that wasn't really working very well. I ended up playing around with the mic volume, putting the mic down and putting the gain up and other things. But I have noticed that there is a little electromagnetic hum. Now maybe I've got a defective headset, or it could be a wider problem. The other thing with this mic is it does seem to be quite compressed. It's nowhere near as impressive as that on the Virtuoso or the HS80. In my experience, you can watch those videos that I've done separately. I'll link to in the description. You'll hear the mic difference. I am a bit disappointed with the mic on this one. By comparison, it's quite compressed and it's picking up that background noise. I also have noticed, you can see that you have a side tone option down here in the software, so you can turn it off so you can no longer hear yourself and you get an audible cue to let you know. This is then makes life difficult because I can't hear myself in the headset, but also it's beneficial in a way, because one of the things I've noticed is when the side tone's on you can hear yourself, but you can also hear a white noise which might be related to the static hum. There is a white hiss, very low but constant, and I've noticed this is also there if you have the headset on full volume, even with the mic muted, that if you turn it all the way up there's just an ever so slight very, very silent but very, very annoying once you notice it. And it's not a problem I've seen with other Corsair headsets, but it's especially prominent when you've got the side tone turned on, and I found maybe you need to turn that off. So if you do experience that's a problem, turn the side tone off and you won't hear it anymore, or at least not as much, and try not to hit the maximum volume on the headset itself and just use Windows Sound for that. You shouldn't really need to turn it up all the way though. It is quite a loud headset, but yeah, the two complaints I have is the mic seems to pick up electromagnetic hum, and also there's just a white noise at the top level and off the microphone. So, but otherwise, all in all, a very interesting headset from Corsair. Affordable, comfortable, and capable in a number of ways. I would, however, personally recommend going for the HS80 instead. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting, hilarious, or otherwise. Take a look at these other videos that I think you might find interesting as well, and have a look at the description for links and other information you might find useful. Click that join button to see the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel, and most importantly, have a great life.